What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and today I'm going to be reviewing Over-Nite Sensation, the 50th anniversary release. I just got it in the mail right here. I have not even opened it. See, it's not even opened. I'm not going to open it on screen. Other people have done that elsewhere. Classic Album Review did his box reveal. I'm also not going to react to it on screen because I don't like to do that. But anyways, I am going to review it in a different way than I've done other things. It is my Thanksgiving break. I am a kindergarten teacher. We are now on Thanksgiving break. My wife is working. She's a nanny. So she now has more kids to watch because the older siblings of the kids she watches most of the time, they're home for the week. So she'll be working the next couple of days. And the weather is miserable outside. It's wet. It's humid. It's just kind of gross. And the things I was planning to do outside, they're not going to be done in this weather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review each disc as I listen to it. So I'm going to open it right now as I talk, so you know that I'm actually opening this thing. And then I'm going to listen to disc one, and then I'm going to come back on here and I'm going to review disc one immediately after I listen to it. Normally I will listen to something for like a couple weeks and then I'll drop a review. I'm going to try something a little bit different this time just because I have the time and the weather sucks. This might be part one. This might be part two. I have no idea how many parts this is going to be because I don't know how long I'm going to talk about each disc. But yeah, I'm going to push stop. And then when I come back on, it will be maybe 80 minutes later. And I'm going to give my first review of the first disc of this, the Over-Nite Sensation 50th anniversary release. It's got the entire Over-Nite Sensation album. It's got about a disc and a half of other goodies. And then it's got about 2 discs and a little more of live stuff from 73, which is what I'm most excited about. But anyways, that's it. On to 80 minutes later, the first disc. All right. Disc one, it's in the airs. Disc one, there are 16 tracks on this disc. The first 7 are the original Over-Nite Sensation album. I did review this elsewhere on the channel back when I was doing the top 55 Zappa albums, not the top 55 Zappa albums. When I was doing these Zappa albums released in his lifetime, pretty high ranking. It was definitely in the top upper half. But listening to it right now, I know this album, right? Obviously, Over-Nite Sensation. It's just a fantastic, fantastic album. It is both a rewarding listen for a hardcore Zappa fan and an absolute awesome entry into the Zappa world. It is very accessible. The sound is fantastic. Yeah, it's got some hardcore Zappa-isms in it. Zombie Wolf is musically like typical Zappa, you know. Dynamo Hum is lyrically typical Zappa. Montana, you know, all of these are just fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't need to go into the album. I feel chances are if you're watching this, you're familiar with the album already. If you aren't familiar with the album, it is a great entry point into Zappa in that it's both easy, but it's challenging. Sound is fantastic. The band is fantastic on Over-Nite Sensation. This is like the 73 band, essentially. Got a fantastic rhythm section. Humphrey and Tom Fowler just sound absolutely amazing. Humphrey might be the star of this album. His drum work on so much of this stuff is ridiculous. Camarilla Brillo especially, such a great opening number, great pop song, ridiculous rhythm parts on there. I'm the Slime does commit the cardinal sin of having a guitar solo fade out. But other than that, I don't think this was remixed in any way whatsoever, but for some reason, the band, like behind the vocals during I'm the Slime, just is standing out to me in a way that it hasn't stood out before. Just its sort of jazzy, jammy little vibe that's underneath Frank's vocals. Just, I don't know why, it's just kind of jumping out at me this time. Dirty Love, fantastic little short pop rock song. 50/50, awesome jam. Super excited for the live 50/50 that's going to be on disc 4, I think. Instrumental back when they played it in 73. Zombie Wolf, I think, is one of Frank's all-time best studio guitar solos. Dynamo Hum is the only song I really don't like. I could do without a Dynamo Hum. And then Montana. So to close out, which has an awesome solo, sounds fantastic. So the Overnight Sensation album itself is fantastic. So then we get the next six tracks are called Bonus Session Masters. Starts off with something I've been waiting to hear my entire life. Sorry for that, My throat's got some early morning gunk in it. I'm gonna drink some coffee really quick. Wonderful Wino, the complete edit. So apparently, they're basic tracks from 1970 that have both Dunbar on drums and then Jeff Simmons on bass. And then there's overdubs that Frank did in 73. Every time there is a Wonderful Wino release, I'm like, is this going to be the definitive version that I think exists, but it's never been put out there? Like a lot of Wonderful Winos, they're too slow, there are some really good live ones from the Flo and Eddie period, but there isn't that definitive Wonderful Wino. This is the definitive Wonderful Wino. It's 3 minutes and 16 seconds of just kind of sleazy, leaning into that Dr. John vibe that they would like reference when they did this song live back in the Flo and Eddie period. It's just got like a funk to it and dirty is not necessarily the word. I want to say greasy because Flo and Eddie would lean into that greasy thing back on that Playground Psychotics. It's not necessarily a greasy version, but there's just a lived-in rawness to this version that is absolutely fantastic. To me, this is the definitive Wonderful Wino. This is what I've been waiting for. Would have been interesting had Frank drop this on Over-Nite Sensation. I don't think it quite works on Over-Nite Sensation. It might have worked on Apostrophe. I'm not even sure where this song works. Maybe this version on Zoot Allures would have been fantastic, but this is a fantastic, fantastic version of this. The next one is an Inca Roads that has Sal Marquez's trumpet and vocals on it. We get a Sal Marquez version of Inca Roads. This is otherwise pretty much the same version that was released on like Lost Episodes, where we start off right away with the do, but this time Sal's singing the vocals. That part that happens in the second half of the song, right before we get like the solo section that is normally like a keyboard solo section. So we start there, but we get a Sal Marquez trumpet in there. We get a flute solo by what I'm assuming is Underwood. Just a version we've heard before, but now we got Marquez on it, which is a nice little treat. We get a Redunzel that had been previous released, but we get the Frank Zappa guitar solo in there. So we get Frank's little guitar solo, which is fantastic. This is the 1973 version, not the same version that would be released on Lather. We get For the Young Sophisticate, which was released on Lather. Another just fantastic song. Listening to this, I don't know where this would have fit either. It also kind of just doesn't seem like it belongs on Overnight Sensation or anything from this era, so it's kind of interesting that it stuck around to Leather. We get a single version of I'm the Slime, and we get the single edit of Montana, which is essentially Montana, slightly mixed different, no guitar solo, but it has this intro in it prior to the da-da-da-da-da part, and the intro is kind of like that doom, boom, bass part with some really nice, almost like Doobie Brothers soft rock keyboards in front of it. And Frank eventually obviously dropped the intro, and we don't ever get the intro except in a couple like live 74 shows, like particularly Zappa Erie. We don't really get the intro, but in that one, they just kind of go into Montana because like Frank's dealing with some audience people fighting over each other. And so they don't finish the song they're playing. So Fowler starts playing boom, boom, that bass line. There is a world, there is a timeline where Frank kept this Montana like intro. And so live, it would kind of extend out and be like, it reminds me of what My Morning Jacket does with Off the Record, where they kind of, they're going into Off the Record, but like they're just kind of messing around and jamming. Then all of a sudden Jim James will be like, dun, 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 and we're in it right hard. There is a world where Frank lets the band jam on this intro for like 1, 2, who knows? Maybe he's dropping a solo. Maybe other people are dropping the solo and we're building up steam. And then all of a sudden it's like, dun, 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 and the crowd's like, yeah. And everybody's going, dun, 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 singing that intro. There is a timeline where that happens. But it's a really neat little intro. Other than that, it's essentially the same version, but that intro is really neat to hear. So up to this point, we haven't had any repeats of songs. It's other than Montana being repeated. Whole bunch of, I guess I'm the Simon's repeated. But a pretty good album. We got 3 more things, which are called the bonus vault sensations. One is an alternate mix of Inca Roads that I don't think has the Marquez solo in it, right? I think it has like a trombone solo. I think there's a Fowler solo, and then we get the flute solo. We get a Redunzel, right? I'm pretty sure that's what's on this one. Yeah. We get a Redunzel take 2, which has a different guitar solo from Frank, and it's like, it's not the best guitar solo, but there's interesting ideas that he's throwing out there, and it just has a slightly different flavor. And the whole take just sounds a little bit looser, kind of mixed a little different, has a little more of a, I don't know, it gives me a fresher sense. It's a really fresh version of Redunzel. It sounds like the band has like finally learned to execute it, and they're just going in and they're swagger, and it sounds good. It's a nice take on Redunzel. And then the album closes with Exforts, parentheses, Ekin Nazarf, parentheses, of you, parentheses, parentheses. Close those parentheses. One of those should have been a bracket. But this is essentially a live jazz jam session version of Ekin Nazarf of You. We don't start off with the dun, 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 dun. We're not starting off with that. We're starting off with the weird complex parts that occur after that. And then after we get what is essentially like the head, like the Ekin Nazarf head, we go into solos, and people get solos, and it's loose and jammy, and Frank takes the last solo, and when his solo is ending, it just kind of fades out, and then he goes back and plays some more Ekin Nazarf, and then the whole thing just kind of ends. It is absolutely fantastic. It is just sounds like an in-studio jam session as the band is learning to play Ekin Nazarf of You. It is amazing. That's disc 1. 73 minutes and 36 seconds, according to the booklet. If this had been a 50th anniversary release, and there was like a single disc release, and they say, we got Over-Nite Sensation with a handful of goodies, these are some good handful of goodies. The Wonderful Wino is fantastic, and the Exforts, those are top-notch, like vault releases. The Inca Roads with Marquez on it is nice to hear. The night we get a For the Young Sophisticate, which we've had released other times, but it's nice to have it released in the era it was like played in. Yeah, it's just an all around really, really enjoyable first disc. Like, yeah, so far, if it was a single disc thing, I would still buy this and I would still enjoy it. But yeah, there's 3 more discs, so I'm super excited. So yeah, that's it for now. I think I'm going to wrap up this entire video here. We're like at 12 minutes. It's a good start. Probably post the next one tomorrow. See if I can probably go get some breakfast. Then I'll listen to disc 2 and do that. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the first disc right there. There are some goodies on here, but it looks like there might be even some better goodies in the disc to come. All right, thanks for watching this one. And we'll hit up disc 2 probably tomorrow, at least in video release time-wise. Thanks for watching. Go listen to this. Go listen to Exforts, Ekin Nazarf of You Jazz Studio Jam. It's absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace.